my guest this morning is Jerald LaVon Hoover. Jerald L. Hoover is a multi-talented and has accomplished quite a bit with respect to the creative, literary, and entertainment world. In 1993, he won an award for, quote, the best memorial writer of the year, Literary Society of Virginia. All right, Virginia, we're going to talk about that. This award was bestowed for the fictional novel, My Friend, My Hero. For the novel, Jerald was also listed from 1994 to 1996 as a best-selling author among young black writers in various African-American publications. In 1995, he was awarded the Writers' Corps Award by then-President Bill Clinton. In 1998, Jerald was inducted into the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club Hall of Fame. This is the same club that Denzel Washington grew up and served in. In 2003, then Bronx Borough President Adolfo Carrion awarded Jerald with a citation of a merit award for his work with young people in the Bronx elementary and middle schools. In 2007, Basketball Hall of Fame and New York Post writer Peter Vesey featured Jerald in a Sunday story giving recognition for his work on his first documentary, 4 Square Miles to Glory. Then in 2011, Jerald was nominated for honorable mention for being Best Sports Writer of the Year by Black Press Radio. Also in 2011, Jerald was a semi-finalist for his screenplay of My Friend, My Hero. By the Gotham Screenplay Contest, Jerald is a sports writer and has covered the New York Knicks and New Jersey Brooklyn Nets for Black Athlete Sports Network, the network journal Sports Style New York, Pure Sports New York, and BusterSports.com. Jerald teaches at Long Island University as an adjunct professor in the area of sports communication. He has also directed documentaries on Kool Moe Dee and Felipe Lopez for the Life in Day series, directed plays for the church's annual convocation for the past 8 years. He's also an in-demand motivational speaker who overcame a childhood speech impediment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the microphones, none other than Jerald LaVon Hoover. Jerald, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning. No, that was quite an introduction.
Well, I tell you, I like to read, because a lot of times my guests will say, you know what, don't read the whole bio, but I like to, or tend to read the whole bio because I want the listening audience to be inspired. And I want them to hear that and say, wow, if it can happen for Jerald, if Jerald can do that, you know what, let me get up off my duff and I can do some things too. So I'm always hoping the bios will act as an inspiration and encouragement for those who may be listening. So again, welcome. I was sharing with the audience in the 6 o'clock hour, whenever I was telling them that my guest was going to join me in the 7 o'clock hour. We've had to reschedule this thing a few times. We originally made the first date, and I think I double booked you with somebody. We made the second date, and I think your grandmother had passed away. You have my condolences for that. And then we made this date, I believe. This might even have been the fourth one. It was third or fourth. I don't know which. But
Exactly.
It's been a while coming, but I am glad indeed that we have connected and we are together this morning. All right. So as I shared with you whenever we were talking a little bit earlier, generally I will kind of ask, because I see not only do you do your writing here for the books, but you write for the newspapers or the sports columns or what have you. Where did this all start? Was that something that you were always reading and writing as a kid, or just writing as a kid, or kind of like walk us back?
Sure. What I grown to sort of realize or appreciate, because I was taught as a young boy that whenever someone had a handicap of one magnitude, like say if a person was mute, then their sight would be stronger. If a person was blind, the hearing would be better. Person was sort of paralyzed on one side of the body, the other side will be almost doubly stronger. So I took that to meaning for me that the fact that I couldn't speak well, I was a stutterer. And believe it or not, I still stutter, but not as bad, of course, as I was as a child, that I would be a better writer. So I must have put that in my head, whether it's factual or not, but I did. And so writing, and then with me always having a vivid imagination, writing just became sort of a go-to for me. It was a way of life, an outlet. And that started when I was 8 years old, when I started a book called I Was a Sad Boy. And I started writing that book because my mother and father was going through a divorce, and I was upset. Of course, I was in third grade. I used to watch a lot of my friends, my classmates at the time. I was going to PS 18 in the Bronx, and I used to watch a lot of my fellow students get picked up by their parents or father, basically. Or I would watch baseball, and I would always watch when a foul ball went into the bleachers, the stands. It would always be a male that got a ball for a kid. And every game I watched as a kid, I would always see that. I used to watch the Mets a lot at that time, and those are things that made me sad. So I wrote it down, and I didn't know I was writing a journal or diary, whatever you call it. I had no idea about that, but I just liked that pen and paper, and I started writing, and that's when the bug really hit me that I wanted to be a writer.
Wow. There's so many things that you said there. Like I told you whenever we talked a couple of minutes ago, I don't work off a question list. So what my guest says kind of determines where the conversation goes. And you said a couple of things there that I want to dialogue a little bit about. And one was the stuttering piece. I can totally relate to that because I didn't stutter, but my mother did. And
okay,
the fact that she did, to a degree, caused some teasing for me from some of my little peers. But she overcame that, and how she started studying, it was crazy because during her time frame that she was coming through, she was actually naturally born left-handed. And during her time, it was the craziness in terms of how folks thought and in the South. But anyway, her parents thought the left-handed thing was demonic. So her father... Yeah. Right. So her father literally tied her left hand down and would not allow her to use it and forced her to use her right hand. And because of that, it crossed up some things in the brain, which caused her to stutter. Now, she overcame it over alone, but I can remember as a child her trying to get words out and getting hung up. And thankfully, thank God, she did over time. She was able to work her way out of it. So totally, I get that. And so my question for you is, as a child, because I just said I experienced some teasing from some of my little friends that I played with that would hear my mother trying to talk to me. As a child, did you experience teasing because you stuttered?
Of course. Are you kidding me? I was born in the Bronx. I was raised in Mount Vernon, but I was born in the Bronx. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. And you know what? You just taught me something. Because what I had come to find out that a speech problem isn't a speaking problem. It's in the neural system.
Right.
I can't say the word neural
That's right.
too well, but yeah, but it's from there. And you just taught me something because I taught myself to be ambidextrous. And this is probably on the same time this happened. I was around 8 years old,
right?
7, 8 years old, and I was quote unquote air quotes in love with a Spanish girl, a Puerto Rican girl, that was liking another gentleman, if you could, well, classmate who was a little taller than me, and he was left-handed. So I taught myself to write left-handed for the entire year. This is a true story. Story.
I believe, because I mean, it is neurological. The speech and all of that is connected in the brain, of course. But I mean, it's almost like if you were talking about somebody being paralyzed. There are times if you get hit on your left side of the head, your right side will go, and vice versa. It's the opposite. Yeah. Like our brains control the opposite sides of our bodies, and so if you were doing that, then it's a good possibility.
Yeah, and that's why there's certain drills that you do. I learned this while watching the Asians, where if you were to take your right hand and hit the bottom of your left shoe, left foot,
right,
vice versa, in succession, it helps a lot of things with the brain.
Right.
And you cross-hand it. You're doing it from left to right, left to right, left to right. But I taught myself to write left-handed the entire year. Now, in first and second grade, particularly in first grade, I had perfect penmanship. I mean, my J's were like the teachers, and my E, because that's what my name was, Jerald.
Right.
But the way I wrote was just like the teacher. And believe it or not, I was getting penmanship awards. The minute I started teaching myself how to write left-handed, because I was trying to be like the left-handed Puerto Rican boy, I threw my equilibrium off. And that is when stuttering started.
Okay, now
and now I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that probably that's when it started.
And then you combine that with, if I heard you say your parents were going through the divorce about that same age, am I correct?
So we had trauma. Yeah.
Yes.
It was shock and trauma. So I had a few things going on with that, and that's when the stuttering really started. But when I got older, that's when I found out that the stuttering was because I became, I guess if you will, left brain and right brain.
Right.
And when I was trying to get thoughts out, because I told you I had a vivid imagination, when thoughts came out, they would come out at the same time, and it would cross up in my larynx, and it would cause me to stutter. It's almost like two cars going through a one-lane intersection, and if one of them doesn't yield to the other, you have a collision.
Correct.
That's what was happening. Because then I learned how to speak slowly, and then I started to get words out better, and the confidence grew. Because I never forget the great Nikki Giovanni, the great poet. She met me when I was attending Norfolk State, and it was supposed to have been a 15-minute meeting because the student body president said, okay, he found I was a freshman. He was a senior. He said, okay, you're a writer. Okay, I'll let you meet Nikki Giovanni, but I'll give you 15 minutes. Even that's a long time.
Right.
And he said, I'll put you in a room with her, and you could talk. And she likes sports, big time sports. I mean, and first of all, she was a radical. Then she liked sports. So that right there was just completely, putting fish with the hot grease. It just was a mix, but it was explosive. But she knew what she was talking about. This was on when Georgetown was coming in the bloom and so forth and so on. And she kept me for the whole day. Basically, she was like, she said, "You got class?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "No, I want you to stay with me. I'll write you a note to your professor." I'm like, "Okay." She didn't tell me that twice, but
I know that's right.
Oh man, no, you kidding me? And she told me, because she knew I was writing a book, and I was still in draft form. I wasn't even in nowhere near being published. Also, I didn't know, and I would say. And she said, whenever your book is published, you gotta first of all, I won't keep saying ums. I hate that.
Right.
I don't let my students say so I'm like, I don't want to keep saying ums. But I told her that I stuttered. After she told me, get in front of every microphone, every tape recorder, whatever it was, anything with communication, get in front of it. And I told her, I said, I stuttered. And she looked at me and said, get over it. And I was like, whoa. What I thought at that time was harsh, but what she was doing really was instilling confidence in me. In other words, do not let that be a detriment. Do not let that be an obstacle. And when she told me that, it took a while to sink in. That's when I realized that when a book finally did get published, get in front of a microphone, talk, speak. And now I'm an in-demand public speaker, motivational speaker. Those words she told me 30-something years ago were never forgotten.
Absolutely. And the thing is, let me see, it was either 2009 or 2010. I had the opportunity to interview Nikki on this show. Matter of fact, I still have the recording from that interview, and she's a wonderful person. Like I said, very straight up, because I remember the interview because it was right after the time Obama was elected. So it had to be 2008, 2009, 2000, somewhere around there. And I remember her being extremely candid about her thoughts about some of the things in terms of the Obama candidacy, whenever he was actually running, some of the things that went down. So I remembered, I'd have to look it back up. But like I said, like she said, get over it. Yeah, that's exactly the way she is.
Get over it. She said, get over it. I was like, whoa. But she was saying, look, young man, if you want to make money,
right,
you got to get out there and speak. And I never forget, I did a speaking engagement at a graduation. And I don't even know how I got invited for that. Well, I know what it was. They finally had me with a book. And they said, well, come give us 3 words. And I wrote, because I'm a writer,
right.
I wrote the speech. I'm trying to read the speech while I'm trying to give it. No.
That's correct.
An expert at that is going to be very choppy. And I can feel the auditorium, because it was an auditorium, leaving me.
Right.
And I just said, you know what? I stutter. They're looking at me like, huh? I said, I'm trying to read this because I'm trying to not stutter. So I figured if I read it, because you don't stutter when you're reading because your mind is fixated on certain things. I didn't stutter, but I was boring. I said, look, I stutter. I'm just going to talk the way I speak, and I'm going to let it go. And I ended up getting a standing ovation because I let everything come from the heart.
Exactly.
From that moment, I learned, okay, just be yourself, let it go, and that's when the confidence came. And then I got more invitations. And 1 year, I actually spoke in 12. Actually, almost 13. It was 12 daytime graduations, and then I was part of a panel to speak at a nighttime ceremony. But I spoke in 12 graduations in 1 year.
Wow.
And although it was rewarding, it was absolutely grueling, but it felt good.
Oh, yes.
I was like, who wants to hear me that many times? But the students that I had served writing when the book was really, it's actually pushing now, but when I was in another phase of it, the students were like, we want you to be the guest speaker, we want you to be the guest speaker. Or a principal might say, I need you, come. I mean, I had principals actually call me personally.
Right.
Principals like, yourself, y'all schedules are so busy that I was getting principals that would call me and say, hey, a politician wants to come, but the student wants you. So I couldn't turn it down.
I know that's right.
They worked with me. Yeah, so the students, the schools would work on me where I would start using, again, a keynote speaker is normally toward the middle or the end of the graduation.
Right.
And so one school said, okay, we know you have other graduations around the same time, so you'll come to us, start it off at the beginning. You can leave, and then when you get to the other one, they'll have you come as soon as you walk in, basically. That's what happened. I mean, they were in the middle of something. They said, okay, our speaker is here. They let me speak. Then I left. I felt like a big shot.
No, it's true though.
Then I was there on time. I mean, I was there at the time that I was able to speak.
Now,
I felt like a big shot that day.
In terms of, and again, as I listen, whenever my guest is speaking, is just so many things that come through my mind in terms of probing further. And one of them you said was, and I'm going to go back a little bit earlier that we were talking about the whole divorce thing, and that stuck with me because I went through a divorce, and what I wanted to add to that was, because you said you were sad, and the whole thing, I mean, what you just described, I guarantee you an adult would have no idea that a child was thinking that. And that was, you said you were watching the baseball game, and you would see the man get the ball and give it to a child. An adult would have no idea that a child was thinking that. And where I'm going with this is, having gone through a divorce, and I know what I went through with my children, we have no idea as adults what we do, how it impacts children. And the fact that you could sit there and watch a Mets baseball game and be impacted from seeing a foul ball being hit and an adult man getting a ball and giving to a child, and that would bring on feelings for you. That's something that was deep. I was sitting there listening to that like, whoa, like, wow. But we have no idea what our actions as adults do for children. Now, we're going to zoom forward to your speaking at these graduations. You admitted that you stutter. I'll bet you have no idea the fact that you were able to admit that and still speak, what that did for a kid in the audience who might have been facing whatever struggle or challenge.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I've had people come to me even afterwards and say, "Wow, how powerful it was." And yeah, I've had people say, "Yeah, I stuttered too," or it's always a situation where you're going to get to 1, 2, or 3, or however many that. Or whatever the situation may be that they had a fear of, and they, learn to say, wait a minute, if you can do it, as you said at the beginning of the interview, if he can do it, I can do it. And usually that is I always tell people, I say confidence, and I hope we can talk about that a little bit. Confidence is contagious. Right. If it's given in a certain way, if it's fed a certain way. Confidence is an inner mechanism, but it's also spiritual because it can be translated. You can speak words or do certain things for a person that can give them confidence. Usually speaking it is really the most powerful thing. But by me telling them that story that I started and how I grew to become a writer this, that, and the third. Like I said, I ended up getting a standing ovation. But some people that came to me, some adults too, and said, "Well, I stuttered also," and I just basically said, "I just let it rip." And
right.
like, man, you don't like you stutter. And when I speak now, I'll tell. I spoke at a graduation in Yonkers a couple of weeks ago, and I told them, I said, "Hey, I stutter," but I didn't say that, or I wasn't trying to read anything. But I just say, I've come a long way as a human being, as a person,
right,
and I stutter. And I told them, I said, 10 years ago, well, not 10 years, more than that, but when I was a child, like 20, 30 years ago, I wouldn't be able to come up here and to do this. I would not have been able to do this at all. Matter of fact, when I went to church, well, I still go to church, but when I was in church as a child, when we had to do church plays and so forth, I was pleased. Because you're thinking that you're shy. No, you're not shy. You stutter. You can't speak. It's not about being shy.
That's right.
You're confident. You don't have confidence to get up there and speak. And so, I would fight against having to testify or different things of that nature up front because my stutter. And then what happened was this is when Dr. South's left brain, right brain. That's when I really knew that was true because I would start thinking. The minute I started thinking, that left brain, right brain thing coming in, that good and evil, if you will, and trying to get out at the same time, it's like, no, I'm going to start stuttering. If I hear people snickering, I'm really going to shut down. So that's when the confidence will get worse. And so I had to think, okay, just let it slide through, let one go, then the other, then the other. Then when I got over the fear factor, I said, if you laugh, I'm going to laugh with you.
Right.
That's when I really got bold.
Yeah.
That's when I really got bold.
That's right. And see, you were saying something about the ums a couple of minutes ago. And I, as you know, because you follow me on LinkedIn, I teach public speaking as an adjunct at the college level. And one of the things that we do a lot of focus on doing away with the ums, because what's happening with the ums, and I always get it mixed up. I still have to think this thing through because I always have to say it the way I'm saying it. The reason we is because our brains are ahead of our mouths, or either our mouths are ahead of our brains. I think the brains is going quicker than the mouth. That's why we say So in order to eradicate or to do away with the ums is just what you said, and just Nikki told you the same thing. It's just a matter of slowing down. Like, it's okay to have the pause. Most people don't realize that when they're talking, that if they get silent for a second or so, it's not the end of the world. But people feel like if they're talking and if they don't fill whatever it is, that couple of seconds to get their brain or to get their mouth to catch up with their brain, they feel like they're doing something wrong. That's where our ums come in. So in order to do away with the is just slow down, give the mouth the chance to catch up with the brain, or vice versa. Because like I said, I really have to think, which one is ahead? Is the mouth ahead or is it the brain ahead? But one of them is ahead of the other. That's why we
That brain is 10 yards ahead of that mouth. But it's interesting you say that, because when I teach that with my students, or one of my projects is have students come up and speak.
Right.
And let's say they'll do a project, and I say, come talk about this project. And I'm like, no, I said, we're not. No, shy people do not make money. Okay, quiet people make money. Shy people don't. They said, what do you mean? I said, if you're quiet, like a Kawhi Leonard, basketball player, he's a quiet man, but he's an assassin.
Right.
Okay, he's quiet, but he goes about his business like a surgeon. We're good. You ever heard of a quiet storm? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A quiet storm, and you can do work. You being shy, you're going to always put that boogeyman in your head.
Right.
You can always do that. So I said, and most of my students want to be in management. I mean, you can't be a shy manager.
Right.
That doesn't work. You could be a quiet manager so long as you are precise in when you speak. In other words, you might not be a rah guy, but you may be saying, look, this is what I want. Boom, 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 and we're good. And one of the things I teach my students, and I even taught myself this, because a lot of things I do is self-taught.
I hear you.
If you're in a conversation, and this gives credence to what you said about your brain going further than the mouth. If you're in a conversation, you're just chilling. You're not saying doesn't come out of your mouth.
That's true.
Time. It doesn't have to, because you're sitting back, going easy, and especially if a guy's talking to a girl, he ain't saying at all, and not like he's nervous, standing in front of her, wringing his hand. But if he's just kicking it with her, or even with the buddies, with the fellas and
right,
sitting at a booth eating pizza, you're not saying because you know each other, you're familiar, and words are just flowing back and forth, and it's kind of, and then I had to learn again, self-taught. If I'm speaking to an audience, they want to hear you, obviously.
Right.
Give them what they want, but be easy, be confident. And this is where when I said, well, I'm a stutter sometimes, probably, but if you laugh, I'm going to laugh with you. When the boogeyman get out the house of their head, there's no fear.
That's correct.
Because now, and then once you speak and speak and speak and speak and go past sentence after sentence after sentence after sentence, then confidence build. Once you build confidence, matter of fact, I have a thing called the 5 vitamin C's. This is actually, I started teaching this. It's called the 5 vitamin C's for success. It is confidence, commitment, courage, consistency, and composure. Now, I've had superintendents, executive superintendents, big shots, executive, corporate executives, or you name it, that will say, wait, write that down, or give me that again. Because they
right.
do understand how confidence can be the elixir to everything. I mean, it's a tonic.
Correct.
But with confidence comes commitment, comes courage, comes consistency and composure. You will never see a confident man lose his or her composure.
Correct.
I'm talking about a person who's operating in confidence. He doesn't lose composure because it doesn't have to.
Right.
Even if they've had a deficit, that's when everything kicks in. The commitment to what they did, the courage definitely for what they're doing, and the consistency of what they've been doing all along. That stuff works. And then within the vitamin C for success, you can put confidence sort of in the middle of that circle, or you can put commitment in the middle. You can put any one of those C's in the middle of the circle, and they're all interchangeable. Because composure, especially when I speak to students, I tell them, I say, okay, lose your composure at the wrong time, and we'll see what happens.
Correct.
You see the damage you cause. You become a tornado.
Correct.
But when you're able to keep yourself composed, you won't get into fights. You won't disrespect teachers. You won't disrespect each other. You keep things cool. And say, oh, wow, Mr. Hoover, yeah. But I had to learn those things, because I grew up with, didn't have confidence. I stuttered. So there are certain things that I had to battle through. But once confidence kicked in, and I mean, even when I hear when I hear athletes speak about confidence, when I hear the word confidence, it's almost like somebody's giving me money.
Right.
Because I love to read the word confidence, and I love to hear it because it always speaks to me in terms of my vitamin C's and how those things applied will help drive a person to the next level.
I know that's right. For those of you in the listening audience, my guest this morning is Jerald LaVon Hoover, or Jerald L. Hoover. And he is an author, but he's also a speaker, as we're talking about, because what I need you to understand, audience, is writing, speaking, and reading. Those 3 things go together. Usually our authors speak well, and they were readers along their path. And as he was just talking about the C's being interchangeable, those 3 things, the reading, the writing, and the speaking, those 3, like I said, usually people who do one or the other do the other 2 well. And that's what we're doing here, or we're talking about here. We were talking about Jerald's speaking side, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit and move to the writing piece, because I see here you were a sports writer. Which newspaper were you with, or how did you get into sports writing? And then I want to segue into your books like My Friend, My Hero.
Sure. Well, I'm of the mind that, and it's funny, my boss at Long Island University, the older Jewish man, I call him Uncle Gene. His name is Eugene Spatz, and he's like a father figure, if you would. And he called me one day and told me this, because I was always thinking it, that if you can read and write, you can get a job anywhere. And I really believe he was speaking to me to continue to particularly help the black students in this endeavor. Because we always talk about social issues, and he's I guess he's Jewish, but you would think he's not Jewish because he loves everybody, but he loves the fact that African Americans or black, if you will, black and brown children can be helped through education. And his thing is teach these kids how to write. Teach these kids how to write, and speak. Keep doing confidence building things. So he loved the way I teach, my classes and so forth. And when he told me that, I was like, okay, that was confirmation. If you can read, if you can read and write, you can get a job anyway because you can figure things out. There's certain things that will allow you to wait a minute, okay, this works, and you just do it. But if you don't read, you close yourself off to a whole world that's out there.
That's correct.
Right. And when I say write, I don't mean text writing. I don't mean cyber writing. I don't mean emojis and, that kind of. I'm talking about write. There's certain things that you will not be able to remember. Because when you write things down, studies have shown, when you write things down, I'm not talking about speaking into a microphone or these little phones here, the dictaphones. No.
You're
correct. Write it down with hand and pencil or pen.
That's correct.
Or paper. You memorize things a certain way. And I really believe, I don't know too many rappers, but I bet you if I was to poll 10 rappers, and I would say, how do you memorize most of your stuff? They say, I write it down. Because it comes out of you a different way. It's a different feeling when you write it down. It comes out of you. It's a different bond between you and that paper.
That's correct.
And then you see it. So the mind says, okay, click. You take pictures of it a different way. And so writing, and also if I have issues about things, if I have things that were on my mind about something that's going on with society, as we'll talk about with my hero, I'll write about that and I'll make a story of it, or I'll put it in the scene in my book and make it flow. And so those type of things have helped me. Now, I became a sports writer because I am a novelist. My agent at the time, he was he was friends with a man named Roland Rogers. God bless his day, he's gone now. He had a website called Black Athlete Sports Network, where he all over the country he had writers of color that would cover teams, NBA, and so forth and so on. My agent didn't know I was a sports fanatic. He just knew me as a writer because I wrote books, and so he thought I was more of a bookworm because I wear glasses too, so I look a little nerdish. But I remember we was in the car one day riding from Manhattan to Brooklyn, and it was supposed to have been, I guess, a 45-minute ride. Ended up being a 3-hour conversation, and he didn't know that I knew sports the way I did, so he would throw things at me, and I was just knocking out the park. He said, "Man, you should be a sports writer." I said, "Okay." It wasn't. No, I've always had myself at the Oscar Madison anyway of the Odd Couple because I was sloppy in the house. So, and believe it or not, being a journalist was a dream of mine. But I never thought I'd work for a newspaper. So he said, "You know what? I'm gonna contact him, and then I'll have you all speak, and y'all will do whatever you do." And he said, we finally got in contact. He said, "Send me a writing sample." I blew him away. And then he said, "Okay, I got a project for you. You're going to cover Michael Jordan's comeback with the Wizards in 1999, I believe it was." And I went there with all the big shots. Now, I went there with a suit because I was like, okay, this is a going to the Garden.
Right.
And, everybody, Michael Jordan's going to be there. So not realizing that I was going to be sitting way up in the moon because there was like 1,000 or so media people. It was bananas. They had a whole section just for media. One person to move the needle like that, I thought it was phenomenal. And I was sitting up there with ESPN guys, Stuart Scott, God bless his day, he's gone now too. I was sitting up there with people that I see on TV, and I wrote the story and killed it. He was like, "Wow," and then gave me another assignment. He said, "You're gonna be my lead writer," and I just started maybe less than a month. He said, and besides I was in New York as well, so I worked for him for about 15 so years. Then I transitioned over to Pure Sports, and I did some work for the Network Journal. But the sports writing came because I'm a novelist, and my agent happened to, hear me talk about sports, and he put me into it, and then I became a journalist for 20 years. That's how it happened. It wasn't even. It was unconventional. Matter of fact, I became a professor, sort of unconventional as well, because the same agent is a professor as well, and he would have me come to speak to his classes. Of course, me being a stutterer, but just still being able to speak. And he worked at Mega Everest College, not Mega Everest, Mega Everest, but he worked at Mercy College, and he went to LIU. And from 2006 to 2014, he would ask me to come 2 or 3 times a year to speak to his classes. And I would go and do well. And he's like, "Man, why don't you teach here? And the kids know you." And I was like, okay. One thing led to another. The gentleman that I just mentioned, Professor Spatz, was talking with me, and it turned out that when I was a child, I worked for his father-in-law. And I'm not saying that's the only reason I got the job, because I was qualified as it turned out, but that didn't hurt, Now, but that's 30 years after the fact. I was
Right.
working for his father-in-law in 1979, 80, 81, when I was like around 14, 15 years old. And this is where I tell children, young people, do not do anything on purpose to an adult, especially on a teacher, administrator, or principal, because you never know how that might work out for you 30-something years ago.
Right.
And I use myself as an example.
That's absolutely right.
Just imagine how when I was working for those people that I was a thief, belligerent, disrespectful, so forth and so on. I'm not saying that was like him getting a job, but you never know.
That's
Because
right.
It could have been a situation where, Jerald Hoover, yeah, so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. Wow, what about him? He tried to get, okay, you know what? He could have came and said, I'm sorry, the position's been filled. You know what I mean? I'm sorry,
That's
we'll
right.
the next semester, if something comes through. You never know how that thing works. What the Bible tells us, a good name is better than what?
That's
rubies.
right.
If it's telling you a good name is better than rubies, and they're telling you, bruh, a good name is better than money. Have a good name, because you can, certain things when you're selected for certain things, and you know this too, being a principal, Mark. Usually, when your name comes up to be nominated to do something, anything, it's not when you're there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
I would say 100% of the time, it's never when you're there. It's when people are talking about you when
That's
you're
correct.
not around.
That's correct.
And what's the vibe when your name comes up? And so when you start getting knocks on the door, phone calls, letters in the mail, and what have you, or any kind of communication, say, hey, you've been selected, you've been this, or would you be interested in this? That means somebody spoke about you.
That's correct. You're absolutely right. And again, for those of you in the listening audience, my guest this morning is Jerald LaVon Hoover, and we're talking about many things, all of them associated with reading, writing, and speaking. You know what? While I have you, you're in Mount Vernon, correct?
Yes.
So have you heard of?
I had to say that.
No, because there's a church that I'm familiar, and a pastor up there, W. Franklin Richardson and Grace Baptist Church.
Grace Baptist, Grace Baptist,
Okay, my pastor and Pastor Richardson, those two are very close. I mean, we've fellowshiped with that church and vice versa a few times over the years. But when I hear Mount Vernon, I think of Grace Baptist Church and, of course, Denzel Washington.
No, I'm gonna tell you what's so funny about that is one of the pastors, she's going in glory. Pastor George, female, she lived in my building when I was growing up, writing my book, and I wrote my book from living in Mount Vernon, the projects. I guess we'll get to that in a few.
Yeah, that's what, because we're going to move into My Friend, My Hero, because I want to understand where that came about. But go ahead. Yeah,
and my pastor. Pastor George, she was living in the building with me, and she was one of the pastors in Grace Baptist.
Oh, okay.
It was and then when the book got out, they had me come there. Matter of fact, I spoke at Grace Baptist a few times, not in the sanctuary, but like they've had programs,
right?
And I would go there sometimes in the afternoon and speak. I mean, I think I spoke at Grace about 2 or 3 times, at least that, And as a matter of fact, Franklin Richardson, I had, because doing intermarry, intermarry, I had him sign Reverend Franklin up to be a extra for my movie.
Okay.
I was trying to get My Friend, My Hero into a movie form, and he agreed to do it. If of course, when it comes. Now I'm gonna tell you what's interesting, because my cousin called me a natural born marketer because I'm like, wait a minute, he's over the Baptist convention, he's like third in charge. I said,
correct.
Okay, that would get me a whole heap of folks to the movie theater. So I'm always thinking, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, all right, books, movie, wait a minute, ding, ding. Okay, he may not be a household name to everybody, but he has enough influence within that population.
That's correct.
To where that thing goes out in the newsletter. Oh, Pastor Richard's going to be in the movie.
Correct.
Ding, ding, ding. We coming to see it. So it's always a method to my. I don't even call it madness. It's always a method to my genius. If you want to.
I know that's right. I know that.
Yeah, but Grace Baptist, I'm very familiar with that big white church on 6th Avenue, and I live, I would say, feet away, really, in the projects in Mount Vernon. So if you ever ride through Mount Vernon and see projects,
Right.
those are where I grew up.
Okay.
I grew up there.
Now, my friend, my hero, that's dealing with bullying, correct? Or
It's
is
of everything.
and so it deals with a little bit of everything. So because I know you said you had a vivid imagination, but where did that come from? Where did my friend, and was that the first book or was there something prior to that?
Well, that's the first book of note that got published. When I was a sad boy, I wrote that as a child, and that was more on notepad paper.
Okay.
When I was in ninth grade, I wrote another book that I got to the 5th chapter with. Wrote that by hand as well.
Okay.
And that was about I tried to create a person, a young boy of color, and a Caucasian boy, and I made them best friends. And I did that because in the 80s, race relations wasn't great between us, and so I wanted to write something to sort of speak to that. But I got maybe to the 5th chapter, and I let a teacher, someone discourage me. And maybe I wasn't a great writer, I don't know, but no, I wasn't a great writer. He didn't see it that way, so I got discouraged. I didn't write it. But when I told you about I was a sad boy with my dad being in situations, but what I didn't tell you was my dad was a drug addict and an alcoholic.
Okay.
And and he went to jail 3 times. So that aided in the fact of why him and my mother separated and broke up and got divorced. So me being that passionate about not wanting to be like him, loved him, but I didn't want to be a drug addict. And I really think my mother thought that I would go that route only because his parents were both alcoholics, and he had 2 sisters. They were both alcoholics, and their husbands were alcoholics, and their children got messed up.
Wow.
With drugs. So it was tough. So my mother, even I grew up in the church, she was really nervous about that. So me writing was a gift that God gave me as a vehicle. Now, let me tell you something about how God do. Well, you know yourself. If God commissions you to do something, do not expect it to happen tomorrow.
Correct.
God's time, and I'm going to say it in bad English, my brother, so you just bear with me on this one. God's time ain't got nothing to do with your time.
I know that's right.
Double negative, and I misspoke the word yo, okay?
I know that's right.
Ain't got nothing to do with your... Matter of fact, when God commissions you to do something, you might as well go get a Snickers bar.
That's right.
It's gonna be a while. Gonna be a while, Doc. When God said, "Here, do this," just know, okay, Lord. So, okay, put it this way: if God said, "Do this," just know you're gonna be on Earth for a little bit longer.
All right, now.
All right. So I would say, if you had a fear of dying early or dying young or whatever the case may be, if God said, "I want you to do something," just know, okay, I'm gonna be here for a little bit, so you might just unpack your bags, okay?
Exactly.
I mean, think about the trick he played on Moses. Okay,
that's right.
Moses, look at him. I want you to tell Pharaoh, all right, let my people go, but I'm gonna harden his heart. Huh? He would say, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're telling me to go get them folk, your people.
That's right.
Out of bondage that they've been in for 400 years, and you know the story.
That's
and you
right.
Do what? and you're gonna do what? So okay,
but you know what? It's interesting. It's
the punchline.
It's interesting you brought up Moses, because if I recall correctly, Moses stuttered too.
Yeah, so he did. Matter of fact, he was the only man of God that had his own prophet.
Right.
He needed a mouthpiece.
Because that was one, he took, I can't talk to him because I stutter. And he's like, no.
I'm my eloquent of speech, God. So I don't care about you being eloquent. I got you. I didn't call you because you was an orator.
That's right.
Wait, God said, I know you wasn't Jesse Jackson. I knew that already. I called you because I wanted you to speak. I want you to lead the people. I ain't care about, what is it? God telling you, I make the difference, not you.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I'm the stir. I'm a spoon I'm the stir of the straw that stirs the drink, not you. But
that's right.
God is something else, boy. I tell you, because what I'm saying is because this vision to become a writer started October 17th, 1983. My friend, my hero. I mean, it hit me like a beam of light. I mean, like a bright light in a dark place. And I wrote a speech. When I told you, Dr. Mark, I stuttered. So I wrote the speech, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing with the speech? There was no internet. It's 1983 now. There was no. I don't think we had fax machines. There was no way of me getting out there. And remember, I studied.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I got this speech here. Where's the speech going? Right. So I'm playing basketball one day, and I get an epiphany. Lord showed me, put characters behind that speech, and make this. I'm playing basketball, and I get one of those aha moments. Okay, I'm playing basketball.
Right.
What's going on? And God gave me the name of the character. This is what you're going to do. Okay. And so I let it marinate in my head a little bit. Then I said, okay. No, I'm sorry. That happened like in June of 83. Then I started actually writing it physically in 1983, in October 17th. I had no computer, no typewriter, nothing. But I had an ironing board, I had a pen and paper, and that's how I started writing. Right? Now, the first 9 drafts I wrote by hand. And at last count, I think my book is about 34,000 words. It's a novella. I wrote the first 9 drafts by hand with pen and paper, loose leaf, spiral, notebooks, you name it. Now, let me go back to a little further. I was always a Bible reader. I was always a newspaper reader. Okay, so it's not a shock that I'm a deacon in my church and
right.
I'm a journalist. Now, I'm saying to say this. My first draft, I was in the 10th, I was in 12th grade. Now, from grades 1 through 12, when I got book reports assigned to me, I was getting A's and B's. I never got anything less than a C. I mean, not even close to that. Actually, I rarely got any B's because the way I wrote was so, advanced. So I got away with doing book reports. When the teacher said do a book report, I can go to a library and pick out Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, one of them, George Washington, one of them big old books that were real thick, and just read the inner notes of it. And don't let it be something that was on television, like Roots or something like that, back in the day, and where I can just look at TV and just write something and just get an A on it. But I was cheating because I wasn't reading.
Okay.
So now, when I want to write my own book, I'm saying to myself, I'm going to brag that I wrote this great book, but I didn't read one. Now, it's the difference between being 17 and being grown, because when you're 17, you think like a complete knucklehead.
Right.
For me to even think that way, that I'm going to brag on television, on radio, where you hear Mark and say, hey, I wrote this fabulous book, go out and get it. But guess what, everybody? I don't read. You sound like a chef saying, come to my restaurant, but I hate food.
Right.
I don't think I'm coming there. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. Or you're a closer, you're
right.
a men's warehouse, but you trying to sell suits, but you on TV wearing a wife beater and shorts. I don't like suits, but come buy mine. No, I don't think so. So my cousin, God bless him, he read my draft because I said, hey, Ron, that's his name, Ron. I wrote this book. He said, okay, really? Let me read it. He's about 15 years older than me. And he said, okay, I'll read it. So I give it to my church, right? Mark, this is funny. Give it to him 1 week, right? So let's say this is January 10th. And I give him the book. And he said, okay, give me a week, I'll read it. So I see him January 17th. What you think? He says, I'll call you tonight. Now, mind you, all weekend I'm thinking, man, he's going to call me and tell me,
right,
man, you are out of sight. I mean, you are an exceptional writer, blah, blah, blah. You should be on Oprah, doing this. But I'm waiting on this, right? This is what I'm waiting on. He says, I'm going to call you tonight at 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, why you can't tell me how great I am now in front of me? While I'm here. He said, no, I'm going to call you at 8 o'clock. So now, back in those days, now, we didn't have call waiting. If you call somebody,
you got a busy signal. That's right.
Oh, man, our little kids are them little spoiled, rotten kids that we have now. They don't know what a busy signal is.
Right.
They don't know what a dial tone is. They don't know nothing. They just pick up a phone and start, you know what I mean, or just press a button and the phone rings for them. So they don't know. They don't know what we've been through. So he says, I'm calling you at 8 o'clock. So I make sure between me and my mother and my sister, no one's on the phone. No, don't take the phone. Don't touch the phone. You know what I mean? Ron's gonna call me. And so I'm basically guarding the phone with my life here. So the phone rings. I picked up on the first ring. Ron. And he says, you sitting down? I'm like, why don't you sit down? You know what I mean? That's how great I am right now. You know what I mean? Brother Mark, he didn't call me stupid, he didn't call me dumb. It wasn't about that. But he let me have it. He was like, you don't read. I said, what are you talking about? I mean, he must have said that about 5 minutes. Like, you don't read. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't read. And he says, what do you read? I said, well, I read the newspapers and I read the Bible. Then he says, he wasn't prophesizing, but it ended up becoming a prophecy. He said, that'd be great if you were a journalist or a preacher. Like, he said this is like an 83, 84, 84.
Right.
I'm like, okay, now, I mean, like I said, become a deacon, Sunday school teacher, and a journalist for 20 years. And I'm like, so he spoke that basically.
Right.
But he said, but what he's saying, if you want to be a real writer, you got to read books, man.
That's correct. He's right.
And he said, you got to read books. So now, I love telling stories, especially students. So I had a girlfriend who looked like Holly Berry.
All right now.
Very pretty. Very, very pretty. And I was hanging out with her every day. You know, she would after school we would just kick it, hang out. You know, for the old, we just hang out, and then I would go home or we'd just be out in the street and just having a good time with each other. So I said, look, I got to read books. She's looking at me like, what? I said, I have to read books. I gotta chill out a little relationship a little bit because I have to go home and read. I said because I'm gonna write books, so I got to read. So that Sunday, that was a Sunday night. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. When he was talking, I actually started crying. So the euphoria that I heard, that I felt within myself, was gone in 60 seconds.
Wow!
And then I had tears coming in my eyes. Yeah, I wasn't boohooing, but I was so hurt. I was like, "What do you mean my books are good?" But now I'm thinking, I got to read books. Then he tells me, he says this. He says, "And don't try to be slick." He said, "Because I'm going to ask you questions." So I'm like, because my mindset was, okay, well, I'm gonna get me a nice thick
right, and tell him I read it.
Hey, Mark, I was going to my first love, buddy. I was going to Plan B, and then when he said that, I was like, oh man, that's probably when the tears came. But I'm like, I gotta read. So he tells me, he said, you gotta read 5 books, and I'm thinking to myself, I haven't read one yet. He said, you gotta read 5 books, and I'm like, oh man. And then he tells me he's gonna check them too. I was like, but now he gave me an out because he says you don't have to get those real thick books with 300 or 400 pages. He said just get something with a good story to it. So I got books where it was either 250 pages or less.
Okay.
And Miss Jane Pittman was the first book, and then I got Miss S.E. Hinton. She was hot at the time, and I got the Outsiders and some other books. Matter of fact, I think I got her series. So Miss Jane Pittman was the first book that I read.
All right,
and the cover was Cicely Tyson because that's when
that's correct.
A movie. And I'm gonna tell you what I was doing, Brother Mark. I'm reading books. Here's where God started working with me. I was reading, and I was trying to memorize almost every scene because I'm like, he's gonna ask me questions, so I want to be able to give him everything I know. You know what I mean? Everything I'm reading, everything I got. I was ready for him. So I read. Now here's the thing. I read the first book in a day and a half.
Wow! All right.
I'm like, whoa. And now I'm feeling good. Now, this is like Wednesday or Thursday. I'm walking through the school on my toes now. Because I'm like, man, I started looking at it because I felt so good about myself by reading this book. And, I reading the book and finishing. I started it and I finished it. So then I read the second one. Then the third one. So I ended up reading all 5 books within less than 2 weeks.
All right now.
All 5 books, less than 2 weeks. And I put my girlfriend on hold.
Right.
So, I said, Ron, I read my 5 books. He said, okay, here. Huh? So he gives me my manuscript back. He said, redo it. I'm like, you gonna ask me the questions? I said, no, right. I'm like, now I'm upset now. Now I went from euphoria to crying. Now I'm furious. You mean to tell me I did all that and you ain't gonna ask me that one question? He said, I don't know if you read it or not. And I kid you not, my brother, when I wrote that second draft, that's when he was like, okay, yeah, you're ready. Now I'll help you. Because now what's interesting, when I did my second draft, I saw all the mistakes that I made in the first draft, and that's why I said, wait a minute, how did he even see a story out of this? Because I wasn't putting quotes where, I wasn't putting parentheses and what have you when I had characters speaking. I wasn't indenting properly, and even though I was writing by hand, it wasn't structured right at all.
Right.
And I'm saying to myself, but he saw talent that just wasn't refined. You know what I mean? I had raw talent. He can tell the way I started it, how it ended. He knew what I wanted to do.
And
But
see,
you right.
Going back to the
wrong.
connection again between the reading, writing, and speaking, your cousin obviously knew that, or somehow, either intuitively or either he had experience with it, because he knew the direction to point you in to make you better. Now, the other thing is he had the courage enough to give you the straight truth. A lot of times when people love us, our friends or relatives, they'll tell us what they think we want to hear instead of giving us the brutal facts. And it sounds like your cousin gave you the brutal facts.
Brother Mark, this dude was an arrow. I mean, he still is too. He still is an arrow. I mean, and what was interesting about that was, I'm gonna tell you what's so funny about this, Mark. I know we're running up against time, but he says he always tell me this. He said, I don't want people to buy your book because you wrote. Now again, being young, you get a little cuckoo in the head. He said, Jerald, I don't want people to buy your book because you wrote it. And I'm thinking, duh. Why not? Duh. I mean, but what we were saying was, I don't want people to buy your book because you wrote. I want people to buy it because it's a good book, and that is what he was trying to drive me to. Because there were times when, let's say, if I made a mistake in the editing and writing process, and he's editing, and he'll read what I wrote, I may think it's funny. I kid you not, Mark. He would be like, "That ain't funny." I'm like, "Whoa, take it easy, Ron." But he was. I told you before. I want people to buy your book because it's a good book, not because you just wrote it and they just know you.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. But he gave me that instinct, that dog in me, if you will, to make me a perfectionist. Now, let me go back to talking fast forward. I started, like I told you, October 17, 1983. The book did not get published, My Friend, My Hero, until November of, actually late October. But I didn't get the first draft, if you would, until the first proof copies in my possession until November 2nd, 1992. 9 years. Now, from 1984, when I started sending the book out, when he thought it was good enough for me to start submitting it to publishers, I got rejected.
Wow.
42 times.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's in the days prior to self-publishing. That's in the days before self-publishing. Like you sent it to the traditional publishing house, and you, like you said, most people, you get all these letters. No, thank you. That was nice, and you have to keep on doing that until you finally get to a publishing house that's saying, "All right, we'll take you." Just like you were saying, kids don't know anything about a busy signal and all that kind of stuff. There are people who don't know anything about having to go to a traditional publishing house either, because self-publishing has come.
Mark, and it was, I mean, of course, and then we had no internet back then. We had no mechanism. You had to go one way,
through snail mail,
or pay an exorbitant amount to get certain things done. But the thing was, and I would tell my students this, and of course the teachers love that, especially if I spoke into a classroom or whatever. The teacher may say, "Mr. Hoover, please repeat that," because I did 60 drafts.
Right.
And they'd be like, "No, Mr. Hoover, please repeat that. You said 60 or 6? I said 60, 60. And that's right. Put on the board. Put it on the board. So I put on the board. But I told them I would even get great rejection letters. Right. It's like getting a great rejection, like you got a man asks a woman for a date. She tell you, "Oh, young man, you're handsome, you're this, you're that, but no, we're not going out." Why not? Because you're not my type. Right. Wait a minute, you just told me how handsome I was, and that's what was going on with the rejection letter. They would tell me how good the book was, timely, but then at the bottom, they would say, "Unfortunately, it's not right for our list." Now, I kept hearing the same phrase. It's not right for our list, not right for our list, not right for our list. So I'm thinking to myself, what is this list they talking about? So I'll never forget, I got on the bus, and from Mount Vernon, New York, and rode up to White Plains. And it was about an hour ride. And I went to a B. Dalton bookstore. To show you how old it is. B. Dalton, right, I remember B. Dalton. That's right. And I went to the young adult section, right, to where the books are for kids, if you would. And, Mark, I didn't see any books in there but one with my face on it. And that book was written by the late, great R.C. Davis. And I remember to this day, 37 years ago, the book was called Just Like Martin. Wow. And I ended up buying the book. I ended up getting it and read it. And I was like, wait a minute. These people don't think black kids read. And that's when I got insulted. That's when I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you don't think it? Now, mind you, it's not a black book. It's not a black book. Never been a black book. It's just written by a black man sharing a black experience. Or sharing an experience as growing up in the, African-American neighborhood, if you would. But There's no N words in there. There's no profanity. There's no slang in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't go that route. I wrote a good book, right? And I knew it was a good book. So what I did was I said, I'm going to put essay questions and topics for discussion at the end of my book. Because I said to myself, I said, when this book is published, I didn't say if, I said, when this book is published and I get into a school, that's where I'm going to drive it at. Because I figured, I don't have profanity, I don't have anything crazy in there. So
right.
I said to myself, again, this is my cousin, he told me I have a gift for marketing. I said, where are kids at? Where are young people? They're in church, they're in schools, or they're in community-based organizations, CBO.
Right.
YMCA, Boys Club. I said, okay, schools where they are like 9 to 5, every day. So I said, how'd you think as a kid? You didn't like to read too much because you were lazy. Not that you couldn't read, you were lazy. So I said, okay, I'm gonna have a lot of dialogue in the book. And then when teachers want to, ask kids to do book reports, let them look at my book because it's not a lot of dialogue. It's under 200 pages, and I have essay questions at the end of it. And that is how I made my bones in the school systems.
So in terms of, I don't want you to tell exactly what the book is about because we want to whet the appetite of the audience so they'll go out and buy it. But what is the gist, or kind of like summarize My Friend, My Hero? What is it? What is kind of like, what is it about? And like I said, don't give it all away because I want folks to buy the book.
Sure. No question. It's about friendship. It's about two young men growing up in the projects of Mount Vernon, which I use as my home base. And it's about friendship, making choices. It deals with some of everything. It deals with some of bullying, but it really started as an anti-drug book because on the cover it says "Drugs and Guns Kills." So yeah, one of the characters are wearing a shirt that said "Drugs and Guns Kill." I made it as an anti-drug book based on the speech that I wrote, right? And the speech was written, and I'm going to tell you what the speech is. But the speech was written, and it became a book because of that speech. And but really, it was a young man that came into his own as a leader. He was a terrific athlete, grew up in a single-parent household, and he was a great student, but he was the man of the house at a young age. And he's trying to deal with life, choices, easy way out, the hard way. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. Matter of fact, I tell people, I summarize it, especially for us old heads, I said, it's like Cooley High with basketball.
Okay.
It's similar to that. It's like Cornbread, Earl and Me, those kind of movies with basketball. And it's a powerful movie. I'm sorry, powerful book that became more than just a book. And I told you, I said I had essay questions at the end of the book. But now I have a full curriculum that goes to the book. I have a student success workbook where students can actually write and have rigor and all the bells and whistles to it. Because now I use it and promote it as a SEL piece. It's culturally relevant literacy, but I use it as a social emotional learning tool. So now I develop what I call the Hero Book Series. I mean, there's so many things that happen with this. It's not even funny. And so I have My Friend, My Hero. He was my hero too. A Hopeful Hero and Hoop Hero. It's 4 books, or 3 of them are written now, are done now. The 4th book will be ready later this year. But all 4 books have the word hero in them because I want people to realize that they see a hero every time they go to brush their teeth and look in the mirror. You see the hero right there.
Right.
Because too many times we don't think of ourselves as that. What the Bible tells us, what a man think of himself, so is he.
Correct.
Because we think so small because we have been knocked off the beast, if you will, of our kindergarten confidence.
Right.
When if you go to kindergarten, you're a principal, you know how it is. You go to a kindergarten class and you say, hey, who here wants to be a fireman? Everybody gonna raise their hand. Who here wants to be a superhero? How many? And they'll raise their hand and mean it. You know what I mean? And they will mean it. But what happens is life happens. Life happens. You see things and disappointments coming and this and the dirt and misery loves company and this and you realize that it's easy to not do anything than work hard. I mean, there's something that you get because you don't want to be disappointed. I mean, there's so many different things that happen that eat up our confidence. So we grow up a certain way, we end up becoming jaded. And so we think of ourselves small, and so we end up doing small things. We end up not doing things that's going to be helpful to our lives, not only in the future, but even in our immediate present. This is why you have so many of our babies that have the potential to be geniuses, but they flush it down the toilet because they playing Fortnite for 5 or 6 hours a night,
right?
Or they're not studying, or they don't take time to read. And by the way, I became an avid reader after my cousin did that. Thank you, Ron. I became an avid reader. Now I go to my closet. I mean, my closet, like my office. You look at my bookshelf. Oh, books all over the place, and that I've read. Okay, but that bug had to hit me at a certain time. But our thing is, if we don't save our babies by having them exercise what's in their brain, we're not going to have them.
That's correct.
And that narrative cannot be so. It can't, because as you know, and I use it as an analogy, it's easier to ride a bike downhill because you don't even have to pedal.
Right.
Matter of fact, you don't even have to use your feet or your arms. You can just basically go downhill and swing your arms one way and your feet another way. But you can't do that going up a hill.
Right.
Going up a hill, you cannot do that. You got to pedal and you got to hold on to the handlebars.
I know,
and
that's
you
right.
got to pedal. And it's hard, but when you get to the top of that hill and you look down from what you come from, wow, you say, wow, I made it. I did that. Yeah, and then that confidence grows. Then you become unstoppable. The problem is people don't want to take the effort to paddle uphill. Because it's work.
So I told you earlier, whenever we were talking, how quickly the time goes, the hour. We've already done the hour and 13 at the moment. And we're at the point now wherein I turn the mic off for a couple of minutes and allow you to promote. Now, you said you were a gifted marketer. I'm going to allow you to market. You could say everything with the exception of a dollar amount. So in terms of websites, telephone numbers, appearances, how folks can get in touch with you, I'm going to turn any shout outs. I'm going to turn the mic off. You got a couple of minutes to market.
Okay, you got it. I have a website. It's called theherobookseries.com, and the word "the" is part of it. So it's THE, theherobookseries.com, and you can reach me via email jlhprod65@gmail.com. I can reach by phone 917-997-3796. I'll say it again, 917-997-3796. Or again, you can reach me through the website, theherobookseries.com, and my information is on there as well. And I'm on Amazon, and I do speaking engagements at churches, schools, CBOs, you name it. And I love to talk. Actually, as you can tell, we did an hour and 15 minutes.
That quickly. I told you it was going to fly.
It went like 15 minutes. Good Lord.
That's absolutely right. Well, I tell you what, Jerald, I thank you for rising early to join me this morning. I'm assuming, there might be a bad assumption, Miss Perry might be listening, but if not, she will definitely get a copy of the archive. And I know she was asking me when you was going to be on, and I told her July 6th, so she may very well be listening. But
love it.
I thank you and I wish you much success, because you were right in terms of, and the good news is in 2019, we do see more African-American focused books, because we didn't see them as whenever me and you were kids and coming through. We are seeing more, but I do wish you much success on that, because your message is a powerful message, especially what you were saying about when you look in the mirror, you got to become your own hero. And also, in terms of having friends and folks that will keep it real with you like your cousin did, again, all those things are important.
Yes.
And so I thank you for sharing your story. Continue to share your story, folks. The book is My Friend, My Hero. There's a series. The author is Jerald. That's Jerald. Levon, LE_VON. Hoover, HOOVER. Look him up. If you put him in Google, it'll come up. If you go to Amazon, it'll come up. The books will come up. I encourage you to go out, get the book, My Friend, My Hero, and then the rest of the series.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jerald. Thank you very much, my friend. I'll be in touch with you. I'll send you the links over as well as the YouTube link, and then you can do what you want with it.
Sounds good, my brother.
All right.
I'll put it on my website.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thanks. Take care.